We're going to hear a reading from Mark that will set basically the foundation for our talk today.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. I am reading from Words That Heal Today. I know you may not be able to see it. Words That Heal Today. It is a book written by Ernest Holmes, and it reads as follows. Jesus, who knew all things, said that when we keep the eye single, the whole body will be filled with light. Turning to light, we receive that light. But turning only to darkness, even such light as we have will become dimmed. See, we cannot serve two masters. If we believe that evil is equal to good or that wrong is equal to right, the mind becomes a house divided. We shall have to desert the one to serve the other. The mind cannot travel in opposite directions without disintegration. I think it is difficult to think peace in the midst of pain, to rise to a consciousness of joy in the midst of grief, or to believe in good when evil seems the more apparent. Yet the one who knew declared that we cannot serve two masters. He was right. He did not say it is easy to serve but one master. We all know how difficult it is to turn from doubt to faith. Yet this is what he tells us to do. Being a lover of nature, he compared our lives to the lilies of the field and to the fowls of the air. The fowls of the air neither sow nor reap, nor do they gather into barns, yet the eternal bounty feeds them. The lilies of the field neither toil nor spin, yet they are clothed in beauty. If God does this for birds and flowers, will he not do as much for us? Have we really believed in the Father Jesus was talking about? If we have not, have we any justification for denying what might happen should we really believe in what the great Whitaker taught us? Here's the challenge he sets before us. Do you really believe? Theoretically, we do. Practically, we do not. Such belief as we have is mixed with confusion, uncertainty, and doubt. We pollute the stream of faith with our unbelief. Ernest Holmes, Words That Heal Today. Ernest Holmes.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. And I really believe that that is the perfect setup for what we want to talk about today. Faith and the importance of faith, particularly right now. My faith tells me that God is the source of all, therefore the provider of all sufficiency. Now, how I personally define faith is that faith is an inner realization, a knowing, an experience, something I palpably feel and know through and throughout, an inner realization of ultimate reality, the ultimate truth. Now, what do I mean when I say ultimate reality and ultimate truth? Those of you who were with us several months ago, we spent a couple of weeks talking about faith, right? But that ultimate reality, ultimate truth is that which has been characterized by many names. That is God, Yahweh, Oshun. In other faiths, they goes by many deities or Buddhist or Hindu principles. But that ultimate truth, that is the reality for us. That inner realization of that truth, that is faith, right? And so that's why we say that there are many faith traditions, because though many faiths say my one is the only one, there are many that say my one is the only one. And we're not here to negotiate that today. We simply say, or to debate that. We're just here to say that your faith, your inner realization of your ultimate reality, your ultimate truth, for me, that mind tells me that God is the source of all, therefore the provider of all sufficiency. And so that leads us right into this abundance and prosperity consciousness, right? It's the consciousness that the lilies of the field have. It's the consciousness that the trees have. It's the consciousness that the fowls have, that they will be provided for. Mark and I talked about in these walks that we've been taking in the parking lot of the Home Goods, this where we live. If nothing else, they've got the best landscapers on the planet, I would say. And these beautiful tulips have been emerging. And that has been like my one thing to keep me focused on the real, right? Because in the midst of me watching CNN and getting phone calls about people I know and people I know, loved ones, and what they're suffering, these beautiful tulips are just coming into being. That's that all-sufficiency. We're reminded every fall when the leaves fall. They're not worried. They're not stressing. Well, where my next leaf coming from? Well, am I gonna have any leaves next fall? They relax into that space to just rest and slumber, knowing that God will provide and their leaves will come back just as lavish and abundant. And so it is in nature, and so it is for us, right? The original ancient wisdom teachings of just about every philosophy and religious system equate this ultimate reality, that which goes by many names, just input the name that works for you, that ultimate reality, that source, that God, that Oshun, with the power of all sufficiency. So when you go back in time, before man started really messing with religion, the fundamental principles of these ancient wisdom teachings all taught all sufficiency. And that the principle of the law of abundance flows from that belief that all beings are expressions of the source. All beings are expressions of the divine. I like to equate it. The analogy that works best for me is the drop of water in the ocean, right? The ocean is made up of innumerable droplets. Each of them actually are distinct and at the same time indistinct from the ocean. The drop has all the constituent parts of the ocean. And yet the drop of water is not the ocean, but is part of the ocean. And so it is with us, for us as individualized expressions of the one, carrying the divine nature within us, which is always providing for us. And so the principle in law, and we use law, many of you know, I'm an attorney, right? What does law mean, right? Something that's real, something we must abide for, something that's in the books. Now in the world, law, gets created in strange ways. But in the realm of God, law is gravity. Gravity is gravity. It always works, whether you believe it or don't believe it. Whether you see it or don't see it. You don't see it. That doesn't stop gravity from working.
Try dropping something.
Look, I'm 49 and grateful for every one of those years. Gravity is real. Right? So we are individualized expressions of the one, which means that our awareness of this, when we remember this, we talked about reading up a couple of weeks, when we remember, right, who we really are, our divine nature, that the God within us is our source and our supply, then we're clear, as Mark read, when we're focused, laser focused, that light fills us, that these circumstances out here, and there's a lot of circumstances out here right now. We're not denying that, but that's not the truth of our being. That is not our true nature. That is not our source, right? Unemployment, 22 million. claims in the last couple of weeks, and I know that money is not my source or my supply. It's an effect. Money is an effect. It's not the source of supply. God is my source and my supply. And it is my realization of that, my remembering that, that creates circumstances that reflect that. Let me say that again.
I was going to ask you to say that again.
It is when I remember with that.
What do we remember?
When I realize that it is the God within that is my source and my supply, then that gets reflected in my experience.
Okay.
But when I forget, and I think my job is my source, when I think money is my source, when I think the government and that little itty bitty money they handing out is my source, when I think the coronavirus and all this other stuff is my source, then I am separating myself from the truth of the God within. And that will be experienced as lack. Because when you take yourself out of God, you're separating yourself from the truth, and that's when lack can show up. So it's not the lack of the job. And many of us won't want to hear this. I sometimes don't want to hear this, but to me, it's actually like an awesome thing. The lack is the lack of faith. It's what Mark read in terms of theoretically we believe, but practically do we believe? Day to day, when the circumstances in the world would tell us this and that, where is our faith?
Such belief as we have is mixed with confusion, uncertainty, and doubt.
And that's the world we're in right now, right?
Says we pollute the stream of faith.
Confusion, uncertainty, and doubt is real right now. I know I've been experiencing it every day. The emotions being all over the place. And if you're experiencing that, you're not alone. I have no problem saying I had to re-engage with my therapist. I was like, you are playing yourself and not availing yourself of a source in this world that can support you right now. You're doing a lot, you're carrying a lot, and it's getting to you. And I talked to her, and it was so supportive. Because what is she there for? Just to remind me. That's all, to remind me that what I say to you all, I get to say to myself, right? Take a break. Remember your truth. You don't have to watch Cuomo every night at 10 o'clock before you go to bed. Or Rachel or whoever you look at, before you go to bed and filling your thoughts and mind and spirit with the things the world is saying such that it interrupts the sleep. And there's that confusion and all of that because I have forgotten what my true source is and supply God. And I'm getting caught up in what I'm hearing on TV, right? That I get to disconnect from that and go and read something that supports and serves me and reminds me of my truth.
Reconnect to the source. Reconnect
to the source, right? That's your supply, right?
So is this the insight plus application? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So I've got some more specifics. So yes, the insight is to remember our faith. Faith being that inner realization, that inner knowing, that inner experience of what we see as ultimate reality, ultimate truth, God, Jesus, whatever it is, whoever it is that is real for you, that really gets you clear on the truth of your being, that which is all sufficient, source. I simply call it source, the source of all. That is an individualized expression through you. You're connected directly to it. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It is within. The kingdom of heaven is not up there and far away. Turn within and seek and you will find, right? So there were some things that I wanted to read here.
Okay.
because the Insight Plus application, for those who this might be your first time, we never leave Sacred Space Sunday, as Mark said earlier, without applying our formula. If someone can type it in the chat for me. Insight plus application equals results. So we don't want to spend this time together just talking, and that's it. And maybe you feel good, maybe you got some things that you learned, and that's wonderful if that's the case. But what are you then going to do differently, think differently, show up and be differently this week that actually has your life experience in a better way? Closer to God, closer to that kingdom at hand. And so the application for today is that I'm going to recommend that if you don't have it, that you get on Amazon or whatever you use and purchase this book. And someone could type it in the chat for me. It may be. So do a search, because it may be offered for free via PDF on the internet. It absolutely might be. The Abundance Book by John Randolph Price. And if somebody has the link, feel free to put that in the chat. So this book really covers what we've talked about today and really gets to the root of abundance. But most importantly, it too gives you a practical application, a 40-day prosperity plan that I know that I have done more than one time. I know Mark has done it more than one time. I know Nikki Bravo on the line has done it more than one time. I believe Angela Davis has done it. And I tell you, it will give you real results because it supports you in remembering.
Hit on abundance, Nate, because I just want to be clear, because for the majority of my life, whenever I heard abundance, it just translated into money. Are we talking about money?
Yes, and. Yes,
okay.
I am.
Okay.
So abundance is enough. Abundance is all sufficiency, right? Enough food, enough love, enough joy,
enough courage,
enough health,
enough whatever. Okay, enough.
All sufficiency, right?
That there is enough.
There is enough.
That's what abundance means. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so many of us, high achiever like myself, I'm like, I don't just want enough, I want more than enough.
It's there too.
Overflowing.
It's that too, ain't it?
And it is that. So the more part of more enough is actually duplicative. It inherent in enough is the overflowing.
I read it said God is lavish abundance. I looked up lavish. Lavish is like more extraordinary than extraordinary. More extra extravagant than extravagant. I was like, man, lavish abundance. That's what God is? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I want to read to you a little bit from the book, right? What is the truth and the law? So you asked me about abundance. This is what you'll find here. The truth and law of abundance. Your outer world of form and experience is a reflection of your inner world of thoughts and feelings. As above, so below. As within, so without. That is the law. The greater your awareness of the presence of God within you, the more that presence fills your consciousness. That is the law. The deeper your understanding of spirit as source, substance, and activity of your supply, the more permanently that truth will be etched in your consciousness. That is the law. It is your spiritual consciousness, your knowledge of the presence of God within you as total and complete fulfillment that interprets itself as every form of experience in your world. That is the law. The principle and law of abundance is all sufficiency in all situations, for all people, at all times.
Let me get somebody else.
You are not alone. The presence, the heaven, God within. So we're going to turn this now to hear from you, thoughts, comments, and questions. But before we do that, if we could just come together in an affirmative prayer. Just take a deep breath, breathing in God consciousness and releasing any lack. Because I know God is the eternal, all compassionate, all merciful, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, that is everywhere present, all knowing, all powerful, the constant creativity, the source and substance of all our good. God is instant and constant supply, lavish and unfailing abundance. Enough. And as an individualized expression of God, the divine consciousness that is forever expressing itself through you and as you. That is the nature of abundance. Abundance is God's responsibility, not yours. Your responsibility, my responsibility is to remember, to realize, to show up, to support others. So it is in my awareness of this truth, knowing this truth is my truth, knowing this truth is Melody's truth, knowing this truth is Reni's truth, knowing this truth is Noreen's truth, knowing this truth is Victoria's truth, knowing this truth is Donald's truth, knowing this truth is Angela's truth, knowing this truth is Lamont's truth, knowing this truth is Jillian's truth, knowing this truth is Willie's truth, knowing this truth is Kimberly's truth, and knowing this truth for everyone that is on this call, Marlon's truth, Karen's truth, Will's truth, and the truth of those who are not physically with us. It is from this place of knowing that I am totally confident in letting go and letting God appear as my all sufficiency in my life and in affairs. Now. And I release this prayer into the action of the law, knowing that it is already done in the mind of God. And together we say, amen, ashe, and so it is.
Thank you for that word. Thank you. Somebody else is waiting to get back in. So if you want to have a comment, and we welcome comments, obviously the chat is off, also and stays alive. But come off mute. We've muted you, so if you have a phone device or a tablet, you got to tap your screen. You'll see a microphone with a red line. You tap the microphone, that takes you off mute. If you're on your computer, just look for the microphone. It's probably in the bottom left screen of what you're looking at now. If it has a red line, that means you're on mute. But we'd love to hear some thoughts. Whatever your thoughts are, we welcome. And we'd love to hear some thoughts on this abundance and the infinite source being within and being the substance of everything that exists, and that's in us, and that it's a belief and it's a challenge to our faith. But when the abundance is not showing up, it's because we aren't willing to see it. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Anyone, just come on off mute and speak.
I know this group is not shy. I know I said a lot. Remember that this is a judgment-free zone. So any reflections, questions, or comments?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, this is Nikki. So, one, I didn't get my push the button fast enough. So my announcement is that, no, but it all goes together, because my announcement is that tomorrow my baby Crystal turns 7 years old. And so in this time of...
Happy birthday, Crystal, with a K.
Yeah, I know, right? Time goes so fast. But in this time of uncertainty and, feeling like it's uncertain and watching too much CNN, and you really get away from your faith. So what did that do for me? Like, I felt up and down. Oh my gosh, am I going to be able to provide for her the type of birthday? Is it going to be this? Do I have enough to homeschool her? Lots of things back and forth. And when I get back to, and I'm reminded, I found it, that my job is not my supply, that the school is not the only way for my child to learn, to have experiences, that there is so much out here, even like looking out the window and having a conversation. how abundant there is, how, you know, of knowledge, of connections, of so many things that I just, you know, when Mark talked about gratitude earlier, I was like, wow, I'm so grateful for this time. And we talked about this resetting. I was like, we done the basement. We've laughed and talked about things that I probably would not have gotten into. And really, it really then gets back to this faith that there really is enough if I can stop and plug in. Like, I can do this. I can do this, and I can get around to washing the dishes. And we can look at new ways to bring in money, because I'm not going to pretend like that's not important as well. But those ideas are beginning to flow as well. So I think that it's, you're talking about abundance. For me, it flows in all of those areas, all of those ways. And when I get out of, like I said, watching too much CNN about what the physical experience that we're having with this coronavirus and the numbers, I get to see another side, and I try to ride that wave, that flow for a while. So I appreciate all the comments today and how they are interwoven with one another.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nikki. And I thought I saw a post. Is there a grand opening getting ready to happen?
So we're going to do the mobile app. So since we passed our license, our health inspection, and people are able to come, you can do mobile, so they can pick it up. So Tracy looked up, because he's always got ideas, right? How can you do the mobile thing? That way, people in the community that've been trying to get in, right, when they're walking by to grab a cup of coffee, we can do that, keeping in mind social distancing. People want to support small businesses, which is wonderful. So yeah, so we're working on having that element.
So Nikki, for those that don't know, can you just tell them what the business is? So I think we got some people in Chicago in the group right now.
Oh yeah, so my husband and I are opening up our second co-working location, but we're leading with coffee. So this is Momentum Coffee and co-working in the South Loop at 2119 South State Street. Again, it's coffee, it's community, it is co-working, and you know, we're just really excited. It's a place for entrepreneurs, business, and people, right, to come and connect and grow and create momentum.
Beautiful. What a wonderful example of all sufficiency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of realizing you can leverage technology in this mobile app to be able to continue, whereas without that technology, then things may have been delayed, who knows, indefinitely, right? And so I think that is a wonderful example of, you know, trusting in faith and then taking action, right? Doing some research. And there comes an answer, maybe not what you initially thought it would look like, but wonderful all the same. So thank you for sharing that. You also mentioned money, right? So yes, money is part of abundance, because money is the tender of exchange, right? It is energy. And so in the abundance book, they use this lovely acronym for money. Money as an acronym. So somebody might type this in. Money is my own natural energy yield. My own natural energy yield. So as you connect to that divine within, which absolutely knows that to be out here in the world and to take advantage of all the things that have been supplied so lavishly and abundantly, that you need that tender that is used in your society. So it includes money, right? Because money is your own natural energy field. And so with that, you know, it helped me get let go of a lot of hangups that, you know, kind of came from my environment and upbringing around money, when I simply think of it as an energy exchange. That, you know, I want to send energy out into the world, and I get to have energy come back to me. So it's not just about giving money away. I get to get as much money as I possibly want, because it's energy, right? And it's a return on what I'm giving out. So thank you for bringing that.
Energy is just another way of expression, right? It's simply, as we talked about Reiki earlier, it's universal, right? And so because it's universal, there's a equal proportion available to everyone. You know, it's not like tulips get enough energy from the air and the sun, but the lilies don't, right? Or it's not that Rennie gets enough energy for her needs, but Naomi doesn't. So it's really available. There's the truth is, and I'm continuing to look to accept that, despite what I may see or what I may believe, because what I've been programmed to see as the truth of the matter. When the truth is that there is enough. And as I continue to embrace that, I start to experience it more and more. And I got to be aware and pay attention, because sometimes this is in little bits that I experience it. And then if I'm willing to see the lavishness of God in that little bit, I'm willing to see the lavishness of God in that tulip, or I'm willing to see the lavishness of God in that that $40 check.
Or my daughter turning 7.
You know, then I can see it in that rent being paid. Then I can see it in that trust fund being set up. Then I can see it in my health being sufficient. And I can see it because it's in everything. Any other kind? I know a couple people have tried to come off mute. I don't mean to preach at y'all. I know, Marlon, did you have a comment? They already brought the word.
Marlon, did you have a comment?
Going off mute if you do.
He's like, no. Anybody have a comment?
Still ain't got a sound.
I have a comment.
Sure.
Do you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm new at this. Okay. I was going to say that I feel, from all you said, that abundance connects with gratitude, and that if we feel that God is enough, we believe it innerly, then that is letting go and letting God, because I think we all have been through different phases of life, and abundance looks different if we can recognize it in every phase. Like, I've certainly had more in the past, more, what I think is more abundance, but I think abundance takes different forms as you go along your journey. Because, like, if some people don't have enough money and don't have enough food at times, but that's what we think, they don't have enough. But the fact that God is helping you get through that part of your journey, you will look back or realize at that moment that you do have enough. Like, you know, you have inner strength, or maybe, you know, your gifts and talents and the abundance in your life is different, and it's hard to realize that, okay, I don't have a lot of money, or I don't have steak, but I got hamburger. You know, it's like different, but it is helpful in the sacred space, and also just to have faith to realize that if you're making it and you're on your journey and you sort of you recognize God is with you, then you can recognize abundance in pretty much every situation. It redefines the term of abundance being more than enough. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So true. And I think it is negotiating this balance that is so difficult, because we do have people that have less than others. That is absolutely a reality. I know there's been times when I have not had much at all. You know, I remember Nikki Bravo and I went to school together. That first semester at FAMU, they couldn't get my financial aid right. So I ate ramen noodles every single day, right? Mm. And so, yes, you know, there are people who don't have. And even in Mark's reading, it said that focusing on love and good, not saying that that's easy. And it's certainly not made easy when we live in a capitalistic, you know, I mean, frankly, white supremacist society that would look to oppress and have groupings of have and have nots. Mm. And so the system and society has moved away from what the great Wayshore Jesus suggested, right? Same thing he encountered in terms of living in an environment of those that had and those that didn't. And then the Romans who sought to oppress, right? And speaking up, right? To say that even in the midst of this, there is something greater. And it's hard for you to connect to that given the society that you experience. So it's not a blame of judgment or judgment around people forgetting and disconnecting, because the world would have you do just that. And so it is ours to continue to not only support us, but to support others around us in remembering differently so they can experience differently. And that's why the oneness means that this is a collective consciousness that we get to bring to the world. Anybody else have some comments before we move into
and while we're doing that, while you're coming off mute, if you could type, we'd love to hear what your intentions are as well. So you can even use the chat. Like, what would you be willing to commit to in terms of recharging your faith, right? Revisiting your faith and what abundance is. You can put that in the comment or comment on that as well.
Any other
Yeah,
thoughts, comments, questions?
yeah, just quick. What, because something came up when we talk about our energy, like our control, and our experience and our belief in our faith, right? That the outpicturing is what it is. So if I don't have enough, if I'm not having enough, just what would you leave me with, right? Because I would say it came up very quickly and went away. I must not be doing it right. I believe, I trust, I this, and then therein you can get in a loop. Well, then if I'm responsible for this and I really am believing and I'm not experiencing what even I believe I should, what would you have one? And you talked a little bit about connection, but what else is there? Because I could feel that pang, like, don't tell me.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Nikki. That's real. That's so real, right? Some of my experience as well. Like I do. So why does my life not look different than it did? So
do I really know? That's the question, right?
So I'll use myself as an example. Those in my circle know that I say that my goal in life is generational wealth. Okay, I'm 49. Why don't I already have it, right? So I've got to be honest with myself, and I'm not saying that this is someone else's. I'm just going to speak through my stuff as an example, right? How much do I really believe that I'm going to have generational wealth? There's a part of me that believes that, but then there are parts of me that doesn't really believe that. And I'm only going to achieve and receive to the extent that I can really believe it, right? And then I get caught up in the real world. And so it's this thing that our mind does. And I think that that part that Mark read about the mind can't go in two different directions and it creates disintegration. I think that this is the critical piece here, right? We cannot serve two masters. So I'll do my abundance work, right? And I'll read the passage for the day. I lift up my mind and heart to be aware, to understand, to know that the divine presence I am is the source and substance of all my good. Then I'll turn on the TV. And in that moment, I have forgotten and just put to the side everything that I just affirmed. So many of us go through this cycle of the day that thoughts and feelings come through our mind and spirit that affirm and disaffirm. And the mind can't go in two different directions. It's disintegration. And so while you're trying to navigate that balance, it's not easy. You're not doing it wrong. That's why it's a practice. It's a daily practice. It's a moment-to-moment practice. It's a minute-to-minute practice. It's a practice without ceasing, right? Because in that break, we have pushed it a little bit further away. And then we pull it back and we push it. And so it's this constant thing that's happening. And so we're experiencing in our life to the extent of where we are. And it's just, we continue to grow. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Hey, Naona, can I jump in real quick on that? Just because I struggled with that for a long time. And for those that know me, I'm not even 40. I left my corporate job. I've achieved what I would say, what I found to be financial independence. And I was depressed at 28, right? From a similar thing. I wasn't making $1 million, but that was part of my goal, right? I was already a corporate executive. I graduated from Harvard Business School, but I was literally depressed. And the thing that got me through is the concept of loving who you are today versus who you wish to be. And it's something that, I remind myself every single day that I get to love who I am now in this moment. And I also get to aspire to be better, right? Like that's the joy that each day comes and brings, is I get to celebrate my failures. I get to celebrate my shortcomings because that's the path that I get to change moving forward. So that I just wanted to share that, because that really, when you said that touched me a bit. And just in general, as we think about abundance, and as I've been thinking about the conversation, I wanted to share what had been coming up for me, in that it's odd that, as I think about this whole pandemic, what it brings is uncertainty, and uncertainty oftentimes is equated to fear, right? And oftentimes in life, your greatest success, your greatest treasure lies on the other side of fear, right? And prior to this, many of us have been lifed, but we got caught up in our acceptance of whatever busy meant for us, whatever busy things that allowed us to think that we were on track. And now we're forced to somewhat be still. So then I kind of think of the idea of like, peace be still, and that there should be, or that, one could derive peace and stillness. And so, what is that stillness? Are we still in or do we remain still in our fear, or do we push past that fear and focus on whatever we want to actually achieve, right? Because on that other side of fear probably is the abundance that we're seeking, whether that be monetary, whether that be emotional, whether that be connections with relationships that are severed. So whatever fear that we might have had that we have masked in our busyness, now is the time that we get to equate creating that peace and pushing past that peace for the abundance that we seek. And so that was just something that I felt.
Thank you, Lamont. Yes, so powerful, right? Accepting ourselves is accepting our God self. So certainly that's going to magnify in our life. So thank you, Lamont. Who else? Come off mute and share your thoughts, questions, comments, pushback.
Hey, Willie here. I just wanted to, the whole time you were talking, I just wanted to scream, preach, preach, preach.
It's okay. You can do that. You can do that.
And to begin with, the whole talk and conversation around God being my source. And I like to speak in the I, because that's where I'm at. And I'm just so grateful to not only be reminded of that, but to have an opportunity to live in that, in my choices and in my thoughts, in my words, with people that are around me and that I choose to, communicate with, especially my family, who's out of town. And I'm really grateful. This brings up for me, okay, because of my faith, I have this, I've been calm throughout this, my mom lives away from me, and she's surrounded and quarantining with my brother and my sister and their families. And, that's been difficult because she's of this vulnerable age. But on the other hand, a lot of us are of this age because this thing is challenging a lot of people of different ages. But throughout it all, some of my family members have been a little really extra and paranoid around her. She has her routine and whatnot, and it's been some words and some challenges. But I've chosen to let her be and to let myself be, and I keep coming back to that. I'm really calm, and in that calmness, I see that this is a time of reset for me, and a time of peace, and a time of no distraction, but because I don't have a choice, because there's nothing for me to look at outside in the world, because nothing's happening of my usual ilk, as it were. So I get a chance to be with myself and my thoughts and what I'm creating and what I'm building. And I'm so grateful. I think someone was talking about God and God's gifts, and I feel like this is for me, I've always known that as I am grateful for what I have, God gives me more to be grateful for. And that is another law of abundance, and just, being thankful for the little stuff, and being like a lily mark, I love that. I love that. Being thankful for the water and the sunshine and the clean air, and I'm thankful for those things too. And often that's where I begin my gratitude list, So with that, I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm really grateful to hear you and be a part of this. And I'm grateful that I finally made it a point to show up.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for that word.
Yeah, thank you for that heartfelt.
You got it. And I'm going back on mute.
Okay. So I occasionally do this, but I don't make it a practice. But my spirit is really been saying, Kimberly Gordy, if you can come off mute, I don't know. I am really feeling your spirit. And so if you have something to offer in this time, would really love to hear it. Kimberly Gordy.
Good morning. Thank you, Niyah, and greetings, Mark, and everyone else. I am thankful to have set a reminder so I didn't miss this opportunity to fellowship and join. And while I am on the Eastern Shore of Maryland with my mom in our home, I think I've just been a little bit struck by a different feel of isolation and like the loss of freedom from the life that I had created. And so it's just really heartwarming and uplifting to come to this Zoom space to see a diverse group of people within the diaspora and otherwise who are exploring their beliefs and theologies together productively. My mom is a United Methodist pastor, and I've been joining her services and supporting what they do. But it's also nice to build upon that and to keep expanding our exposure and the richness that's out there for all of our beliefs. And I'm really thankful for Niyah and Mark creating this platform and forum. But I mean, I think as far as the message, it's affirming for me to hear. And one of the things that really made an impact for me this week was a reading I did for a class that was expanding on Mujerista theology and other indigenous forms of people that remind us the richness of our identities. That it's a very Western influence for us to compartmentalize our roles, but there's so much more richness and abundance there when we don't make those divisions of our responsibilities and figure out ways that they can connect and be together and serve each other and really feed the things that we need and that we want. And the other important piece for me, I think related to abundance this week, was remembering that my knowledge center does not just lie in my mind, that at points where I have felt lack of focus or a little bit of resentment about the task I'm supposed to complete for school, that other parts of my body and my existence are telling me they need something else. They don't want to sit in a chair and focus and read and comprehend, but go outside and enjoy the sunshine. Go for a walk. Put your to-do list to the side and go on run an errand with my mother. We went for a 30-minute ride. And then when we came back, I had plenty of time to complete the other things that I thought were important to me that day. So listening to ourselves, listening to the signals that we receive and process from both within our body and without, and to not be afraid of that, because we are living in uncertain and unknown times. There's no guide for this, and the best we can do is listen to those signals, to continue to pray, to trust the source, and seek each other to keep building community in ways that are helpful and effective. Thank you for the opportunity to say something. I wouldn't have done it on my own. My mother just also sat down, so I think she wants to say something too.
Good
Okay.
morning.
Welcome, Mom.
Hey, Mom.
Hi. We had service at 9, conference call. So it was affirming what you shared with us this morning, because I talked about from John chapter 20, 19 to 31, about Thomas being the doubter. But then when you read information, we all have doubts, and that we all seek God to confirm who we are and what we're thinking. And in this time, it is, we start questioning. And there's nothing wrong with questioning, but we have to remember where our source is. And our source comes from God. And I also want to say, I thank God that my child went to Union because of the people and the networking that is taking place. And it's just affirming for me that she made the right decision and that God is in the midst of all. And I thank God for the two of you, because she said, Mama, we've got to listen. She said, I'm going to go listen to another service. I said, well, let me listen too. I'm just thankful to hear all that you have shared and all that everybody else is sharing, because it's all about, we are humans and we have feelings, and sometimes we don't express those feelings and we keep it inside. And I appreciate what you said about having someone else to talk to kind of get you centered again. And that's one of the things, one of the girlfriends I used to work with said, when I would get a little upset about things at work, she said, all right, Eloise, let's center. And I said, you're right. And then we start praying. And I just thank God that he places people in our paths for a reason. And they're to affirm and confirm that he is in charge. So God bless you all. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Thank you for that share.
Thank you. You know, this is these last few shares have really just reminded me of the abundance that already exists, right? And so, Kimberly, because there's enough, like everybody got to get a little bit of that mom. Willie just talked about missing being with his mom and being there. And you know, I'm looking at the list of folks, and there's folks that I've known since really my very first breath on the earth on the line. There's two ladies in particular, that one of which is her, which is my mom, and my aunt, and they remind me of abundance because the memories of them having been in different phases of my life. So being there from when I was very beginning, and what in many cases people would say should have been a tragic situation in the hospital, turned out to be one of the most joyful memories that I have in my life. I mean, I'm 50, and I remember riding down the hallway on the tricycle, ringing the bell, and my mom and Melody, Aunt Melody, being there, because love is enough. There's enough love, but a kid at that age can experience it. And to now, a kid at 50 can still experience it with them being here. So I like to do, because I want to, we know it's 11 o'clock, so those that need to jump off, please feel free to jump off. We're going to we call this the after seconds, but we'll keep it going. But what I'd like to do is, and I'm going to read something. If you could type in the chat before you jump off, where is abundance showing up in your life? You could just say health, right? Whatever it is, just type. And I want to read something while you type. Where is abundance showing up in your life right now? Nikki, this is in response to your question of what can I do to get me on track when I get off track? Where is abundance showing up in your life right now? Just type as many things as you can. As many things as you can. Just keep going. And I want to read this. So the message of abundance could not be concealed. Now, even the Bible couldn't conceal it. Yep. And so with now the 2,000 years of biblical word being out there, here's some things that they said in the Bible, right? Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper. Prove me now herewith, said the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. The blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow to it. They shall prosper that love thee. Peace be within thy walls, and prosperity within thy palaces. God is able to make all grace abound towards you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. Thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth. The Lord shall open thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto the land in his season, and to bless all of the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. Just two more. Let the Lord be magnified, which hath pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. And the last, I'll leave you with all things. How many things?
All things.
All things. All things. Whatsoever you pray for and ask for. Let me say that again. All things. All things. Whatsoever you pray for and ye ask for, believe that ye have received them, and ye shall have them. Thank you, Lord.
So y'all see that this chair can't contain him. We're gonna have to get a stand-up desk, because the pastor having to do these things sitting down is keeping his energy in when he really wants his energy out. And if y'all think he only brings that energy to this space, y'all haven't heard him on a conference call.
Or a Reiki session.
Right.
Awesome.